All right.
All right, we are live. This is episode 2.1 of Myriad Plots,
Yes. Second season.
second season.
New co-host.
That's right. Grace
And,
is doing all manner of busy things, so it's on me.
yes. Well, she's a teacher and a mom, so it is hard.
No, totally. Much respect. Um, so we're gonna talk about some GM stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to talk about what games we're running, what games we'd like to run, and yeah, we'll see where that goes. And later we'll talk about other things, like problems.
Oh yes, problems. Um, See, I'm lucky in a sense because right now, for the first time in a long time, I'm not running a game. I'm just playing in one.
Wow.
I know. But Rob, after 2 sessions, has already started to confide in me the level of difficulty he's having with the group.
Well, they are a little bit like herding cats.
They are. Apparently, we avoided most of the major storylines he had planned already.
Yeah, that usually is the way of it. The more you plan a storyline, the less likely you're actually going to get there.
Yeah. Best laid plans, as always.
Yeah. I'm running one game and hope to run another soon. We'll see.
Cool. I know you're running Apocalypse World, right?
Yes. We're 5 games into Apocalypse World, and we have our next session in 2 weeks, which means I need to get the logs done. I keep an actual play log because I'm a masochist or something.
Well, that's the only real explanation for that.
Yeah, that's pretty much masochist.
I suppose it does allow you to keep better track of your ideas and the things that you've done.
Oh yeah, no, it's brilliant for keeping track of things, and it's really handy for a long game to have a
Yeah.
log. Um, I don't think that the mage game I ran a few years back would have survived otherwise.
That was a good game, though. It was a good thing that the game survives.
Yes. But there was a bit where I was like, we're 40 or 50 sessions in, and I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. We've had like a month break. I'm just between sessions. I'm like, do I really want to run this anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah. So being able to go back and read all of the adventures and say, oh, right, this is what I found so exciting about the game in the first place.
Right, because you're reminded not only of the things you've done, but of the things the characters have done and how they've influenced what you decided to do and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I have my Apocalypse World game going. They've decided to head to Miami. That is their current operation. They have successfully saved the small holding of Stumpland, and are traveling south through the cannibal-infested wilds of the Everglades.
Crazy. So did they? So they have already handled the switch, or they haven't? They're avoiding that for
Yes.
now.
No, Dustwitch is dead.
Oh wow.
Twice.
Okay.
It took two deaths to finish him off. So Dustwitch is basically was the first villain of that game.
Yeah.
He was this sort of pompous, I dress better than everyone, and I come from someplace where there's something like civilization, and I've got this crazy device that I've stolen from my brother that lets me turn back time.
I love how you just kind of incorporated that into Apocalypse World without blinking.
Oh yes, the fact that the whole last half of that session was improvised.
Was it really?
Oh yeah, no, no. The fact that things veered into crazy, weird science means that I have no idea where I'm going, and I'm just making it up as I go along.
I like how when you improvise, it ends up being weird science.
It's my go-to. My go-to is weird science. I can fake weird science, or yeah, I know I know way too much about bad science, so I can just do that.
You studied so much good science, you can identify the bad science easily.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, the new player we've got is working out pretty well.
Zach's doing okay?
Yeah, Zach's doing okay. He's made himself a savvy head, which makes getting the device that turns back time really cool for him.
Right.
There's the little problem that it got damaged when they killed Dustwitch because Alex's character put a depleted uranium round through it.
Oh wow.
So he's got some repair work to do.
Is it gonna start going haywire and send them all over the place?
Well, right now it's not powered up, so I guess if they tried to power it up, then yeah, that probably would happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
It'd be a
he's,
cool way it would be a cool way if it like accidentally like rather than bring them back in time, just kind of brought a dinosaur forward in time and just dropped it into the middle of the swamp.
I'm still I'm still playing around with this idea that with time travel and this crazy disease that's wiped out humanity, that somehow there's going to be this paradox where they somehow seed the apocalypse from the future.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's just something that's running in my head. Yeah. The other big thread at the moment is there's two big threads actually. There's this sort of struggle for creating a democracy in the apocalypse world because Sarah's character wants to bring back the United States of America.
Right.
And so that's why they're going to Miami because her followers that she's acquired have basically argued at her, well, if you really want to bring back democracy, you should go down there where they killed my brother for saying that exact thing and fix this situation.
So
So,
one of the followers' brothers died for trying to bring back democracy.
yes.
Gotcha. So he's the first martyr for the cause in their mind.
Yep. Yeah. And then the other thing is another bit of making it up as they go along, they found a small town um, run by like techno primitives. Like they have crazy weird science stuff. They have no idea how it works. It all depends on this weird old lady. And they believe that there is gods in the psychic maelstrom, and that they're going to send a messenger. And so Jarhead, which is Zach's character, faked having a vision from the gods, which meant, of course, the gods gave him a vision.
Of course, because that's what happens when you fake it. Fake it
Yes,
till you make it.
yes. And so he's been told he will find the messenger in Miami.
Oh, that must be so interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right. What's
Yeah.
the game that you have in mind on the wings?
Oh, the game that I want to run. Well, that's a difficult one. I have like three.
Okay.
There's a very short game called Kingdom that I want to run. I pledged for the Kickstarter. I got my book a while back, and I haven't had a chance to run it. Basically, it's a GM-less game where you are the leaders of a small community.
Okay.
So I want to try that system because I see a lot of places where that could be really handy. Because I have there are games where this would solve certain issues. For example, I want to run a vampire game that takes place over a course of a few centuries.
Okay.
And I'm thinking using this game for sort of the overview of what's going on, and then just zoom in with vampire for any specific action bits.
Oh, that's cool.
In a similar way, I want to try out this game called Hillfolk, which Robin Laws put out a year ago, I want to say. Basically, it's a game focused on dramatical interactions. So rather than say be focused on can I shoot so and so, it's more like, can I get so and so to acknowledge my emotional needs?
Okay.
And Grace got to play this at DunderCon last year, and she loved it. So I know it's a good game. I know I have one dedicated player, but I need to get a group of 4 or 5 players together to really make it work.
Okay.
Yeah, because it works better for larger groups. And I only have 3 players at the moment.
You have okay.
Yeah. And then there's the other game, which is the completely different. It's Knights Black Agents.
Knights Black Agents.
Yes, you are ex-spies. You have left the agency, and you do odd jobs to get by. So it's like Burn Notice in a way.
Okay.
But you come across in the course of your jobs a conspiracy. There are vampires.
Okay.
And now that the vampires know that you know that they exist, they're coming after you. So in order to save yourself, you have to take down this undead menace.
Okay. So it's kind of like Vampire Hunter Burn Notice.
Yes, exactly. So,
That'd be cool.
yeah. So those are the 3 immediate games I want to run.
I have an outline done for the next phase of Demon the Descent.
Exciting.
So I'm just trying to kind of build up the will to run that one because that's a complicated game. And
Yeah, where did that leave off? I remember there was Zach's character died in an elevator, and
Zach's character died in an elevator. He made a replacement character, and then they killed Key, who was this time-traveling serial killer.
right. Yeah.
But they killed Key by killing his the whole story of Key is that he kind of goes crazy after his wife dies and starts going back in time and killing people, but also teaching himself to kill people. So he's like a murderer twice over.
Right. He mentors himself.
So his wife is supposed to die inside this hospital room, which creates this time loop. And the characters killed her using an exploit that allows them to designate that she's going to die in some elaborate way.
Oh, right, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So wait, did they just cause Key?
they killed her in a way which was inconsistent with the God Machine's plan and therefore broke that reality. So we last left off with them realizing that reality was falling apart around them.
So is it like, oh my God, this building's about to disintegrate, or is it more like towards the end of the Mage game where you discovered that splinter reality that was decaying into the abyss slowly?
It's more along those lines, except it's not so slow. It's like they are like, did the sky just crack? Because the way I pretty much figured it is that, if you look at the timeline stuff in Demon,
right,
it's like backups. They're like backups in a computer of different realities.
Okay.
So the God Machine instantly started folding this basically wiping reality to fold in a new copy. So anyone who knows about it is in danger. Anyone who doesn't know about it is not.
Because they'll just be backed up.
Exactly. Therefore, the only people who are really in any danger are the characters.
Well, them and like other demons and things like that.
Well, I did it specifically so it's only the people who know that reality is broken.
Oh, okay. So it is basically just them.
Yeah, it's them and one of the demon character's daughter.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
So I have this idea where they're going to start off in the future after the apocalypse because I had featured that in one of my major games of a flooded New York City, which is ironically pathetic considering what happened after Sandy.
Yes, yes, I remember.
And basically, it's going to start off with them facing the future without the God Machine, seeing what it's like as this being one of the futures without the God Machine, and then having to find their way back and restore back different backup copies of reality along the way to have an effect. So like, they'll end up in 1920s New York, right before a attack on a major banking. There's an actual event where some terrorist attack, anarchists attack a Wall Street, and the idea is that this space is stuck in a loop while this is going on because the God Machine is like trying to have it happen a different way, but has been unable so far throughout its ages to make that happen.
Okay.
So I'm going to make it so there's like 3 different possible outcomes, and their actions contribute like points, I guess, towards each one. So one of those 3 outcomes will happen based off what they do.
Cool.
So like, I'm gonna come up with like different scenes, and depending on what their actions are in those scenes is what the eventual outcome's going to be.
Okay.
And then that's going to warp reality as a whole.
One thing that occurs to me is when they're in 1920s, what's going to happen to their cover?
And that's going to be one of those major scenes.
I mean, the apocalypse is fine because there's no God Machine. Nobody really cares.
Right.
But yeah, 1920s is going to be difficult.
Oh, it is. I mean, that's the first thing is them getting covers.
Yeah, and then you've still got the daughter.
Oh, the daughter. So it's going to be interesting because I plan on having it be like maybe 2 or 3 sessions per timeline.
Okay.
And maybe having a pretty large break. So I was thinking that like how can you show, since I've run all these other White Wolf games,
Yeah.
can you show changes that have been made?
Show what?
The changes that have been made?
Oh, you mean in the timeline?
Right.
Hmm.
So my solution so far is just to run smaller kind of vignette games in between.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they're looping, I mean, one technique is just to have, say, a standard starting scene.
Yeah.
There's the guy on the street corner selling hot dogs, and there's the couple walking down the street with their kid, and then you just change things each time. It's like, oh, it's the start of a new timeline. Oh, that hot dog vendor is now selling hamburgers, or that couple no longer has a child.
Okay, so it's a central hub of time of these different timelines.
Yeah, I mean that's one way of doing it. If you want to show that things are changing.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way of doing it. And this way, it's like when the character go to the future, you see what the world is like so far with the God Machine. There's going to be a character. Actually, it's going to be the little girl grown up in the future. Is going to be like, you screwed up.
Yep, yep. There you go.
So it's like, go fix it.
Go fix it. Go fix my life. You ruined it all.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
So that's like my major demon thing. I'm also working on a mage setting. Kind of incorporating the new mage stuff with
Mhm.
how the exarchs are a lot more. The seers I always made less numerous than the pinnacle in my games.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna make them more numerous, make them kind of like the government, like the Ministry of Magic in Harry Potter. I'm gonna draw a little bit from that, and
All
I'm
right.
also gonna draw a little bit from this really powerful but somewhat entertaining anime called Regular Magic Academy.
Okay.
And the idea basically being like the characters are aware of the pinnacle and they're aware of the ministry, but the ministry is something much bigger than what they are.
Hmm.
Um, and it's going to draw on that idea of like the people of the pinnacle are out among the common people, whereas people who are under the ministry, who aren't necessarily pinnacle mages, but aren't necessarily seers, or under the purview of the seers, live life separately, completely, by order from by the seers. So they have that whole keep magic away from the mortal people thing, but you guys still have it,
Right.
but without them being like complicit in the work of the seers.
Hmm. It's interesting. Hmm.
I feel like there's all these other people who would just not be like they're not important enough to end up in any sort of government.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I have a mage idea that's similar to that I might run at some point. Um, Basically, it steals a bit more from some of the ideas in Witch Hunter Robin,
Okay.
which is to say that it would have a powerful seer organization that sort of runs things,
Right.
but the players it would almost be like if the seers of the throne were the Nazis and the pentacle were Vichy France.
Okay.
So they've basically been crushed and are sort of surviving by basically just working with the seers. They've sort of been co-opted. And the players would be sort of the riffraff who are beneath the notice of these groups. They don't have powerful rotes or high arcana. Nobody really cares about them.
Right.
And the moment they start to get power, or start to like get a resource like a hollow or something, that's when the boots come down and get squashed. And so the characters have few avenues to gain power, but gaining that power is going to be an important part of the game.
Right.
And I want to tempt them with some ways to get power that are not exactly good for wisdom. Like, the abyss will give you power, and it's out. The seers can't do anything about it.
It's true. They can't do nothing about it.
Yeah. So it's a game of wisdom and the acquiring of power.
That's fair. What I'm thinking about is more like drawing them into the rebellion, drawing them into the lifestyle of somebody who's choosing to live the harder life.
Mm-hmm.
Really think drawing on the visuals from like, have you ever heard the Harry Potter 5, the movie?
No, I never got that far in the series.
All right. So there's some really good scenes in 5, 6, and 7 where Harry's kind of like out among the mortal world, and him and his friends are kind of hiding from,
Yeah. Yes.
the Dark Lord and whatever else.
Yeah.
And they're kind of disconnected from from their magic community.
Ah.
And I want to. I just find it unbelievable that you don't have entire villages of people who share the same power. rather than like, everyone's hiding out in their own place. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just
Yeah.
seemed like, and I find it hard to believe that the seers don't somehow have some higher level of control.
Hmm.
That everyone has to be kind of like within this organization, and not they don't want to like make the hierarchy to the point where there's people who just don't even have the ability to get into the organization.
Right.
Um, so drawing on those ideas, it's like people who become mages, who become people of power, are basically offered the ability to join a few different factions, but for the most part, their choice is just to live in one of these villages. But the problem with that is when people don't want to live in one of those villages.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Yeah,
Well, that's where the interesting stories are.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, and this way also, like, I really like the idea of those weird towns. Like, have you ever been in upstate New York, and you've driven through a town, and you're like, what the hell is this place?
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of interesting little places like that in America. But probably elsewhere too. I
Probably
think
elsewhere
small.
too. It's like,
Yeah.
how does this economy survive? What's really here? What are they doing?
Yeah.
And I like the idea that the economy just kind of doesn't need to survive because they have like this little mini utopia, as long as they
Right.
don't cross the line.
Yeah. Well, upstate New York is also interesting because you have a lot of those. I mean, at least back in the 19th century, you had all those communes and things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Which are basically like those little quasi utopias, or at least that's what they were trying to be.
That's what they were trying to be. Like Oneida,
Yeah.
Oneida, they originally were like a religion from the Great Awakening. They founded the
Yeah.
town, and everyone was married to everyone. It wasn't even like,
Yes.
yeah, it wasn't even polygamy. It was just everyone was married to everyone, and
Yeah.
everyone, yeah,
Yeah. It was even weirder than makes the normal weird stuff. Well, yeah.
yeah,
It's way out there.
it's way out there. And there's like one of the main things with the new mage that Dave Brookshaw keeps on talking about on his blogs and in conversation is mage's obsessions.
Yes.
And I think that in previous times where I've ran mage, the obsession has always been something pretty huge. For every mage, it's been a huge thing, like the meaning of death, or a
Oh,
specific location, the underworld, like something huge. And I like the idea of these small obsessions that completely consume people.
hmm.
Like, I was thinking about people like in library science. There's a lot of people who talk about user interface studies, and they're totally obsessed with user interface. And they write all about user interface, and they read about user interface, and it's a very specific subset of human factors dealing specifically with usually web applications in our case.
Hmm.
And people will write and read about it for hours upon hours on end. So you can effectively have somebody who, like, what if a mage was really truly obsessed with the mystery of how people interact with applications?
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I also have been noticing that he's brought up the fact that mages are very much it's got that academic feel, or at
Yeah,
least it can, and that is like academia.
that's
These
like
little things
academic.
that they're little parts of fundamental features of the universe, but they're little bits of it.
The little bits of it. Also, like if you think about like a martial artist, right? Think about the number of different sword schools in Japan there are, and
Hmm.
sometimes those differences are so small.
Yeah,
It's
but don't tell them that.
Well, no, no, definitely not. But like, I mean, like that entire different, like, well, our leader was a student of this guy, but he wants to use this move, and the other, he doesn't believe that you're supposed to turn your foot this way, and it's just like those are like some pretty serious.
Yeah.
It's a pretty serious passion, and I guess it's an appreciation of those passions and allowing the characters to explore those passions without having them themselves be um, really funneled into it.
Yeah.
Because my last mage game, I tried really hard to have them create like an actual magic cabal.
Ah, so one with like everyone having a shadow name that sort of fit with things and all of
Yep.
that business.
Yep, and they had a theme, and their theme they chose was religion.
Oh yes, yes. You're telling me about how this all went sort of horribly wrong.
And it all went horribly wrong, partially because none of my players have any religious knowledge.
Yeah,
So they were just miming these like very horrible,
yeah,
not correct religious stereotypes, and I was just
yeah,
like I, I'm so happy none of that was recorded. It just did not show them in the best of light.
yeah, yeah.
I was really excited in the beginning. They were like, it's gonna be based off the Great Awakening. I'm like, that's awesome. It's like Christianity, but with mysticism and knocking and talking to spirits. And then it was
Yeah,
something completely different.
yeah, no, that's yeah, yeah. They should have gone with something a little bit more modern and approachable, I suppose, if they're going to do religion.
Well, I mean, like one of the things that that we're talking about earlier in the show, just issues we faced, is that was one thing I should have picked up on right away was they were not going to be able to do this.
Yes, you have to know your players and what they're capable of as well.
Yeah,
In fact, that's one of my big concerns with this Knights Black Agents game that I'm thinking about is, and it's not for my players so much as for me, is just like knowing all of this sort of spy stuff is a little daunting.
yeah, the spy stuff is hard. It's like in practice, it doesn't seem that difficult because you've watched like some James Bond movies and Burn Notice.
Right.
And then, like, when you get down to the nitty gritty of how people communicate without other people seeing,
Yeah, to get all of that. And, yeah. I also have to come up with clues. I have to make them seem, like, well, how does somebody use chemistry to get a clue about a vampire from this scene? Like, oh my god, how am I going to do that?
almost CSI, and have traces of some sort of random chemical on their boot, which they stepped in, and that
Yeah,
one dude happens to notice, and
yeah. I guess I should just watch more at CSI or Bones.
or Bones. Or NCIS. I feel like NCIS at this point has used every plot device possible, and now they're just creating new shows in new towns because they're like, well, let's give it an accent.
Yeah, they do seem to be spinning off like crazy.
Yeah, the Scott Bakula NCIS.
Yeah, I have not watched. I think I may have watched like one or two episodes, but I see them advertised, and it's like, what, really? There's another one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, but they're good for procedural crime shows. Are great for those little clues.
Yeah, I just get really bored of procedural crime shows.
I hear you.
Grace Grace loves them though, so that may have some bearing that I have just seen more than the average person would ever see.
You've seen too much procedural crime shows.
Yeah, yeah.
So Sebastian gonna like every time he hears like the don't sound from Law and Order when he's older, like have some sort of reaction.
Well, we don't actually watch like Law and Order. Like I've never seen Grace interested in like the judicial end of these procedurals.
Okay.
She likes more mysteries.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he'll recognize the sound of X-Files. We still have 4 seasons that I need to get through so that my education is complete.
Are you watching on DVD or what?
Yeah, we got the whole collection and the movies and the Lone Gunmen.
I have to really actually watch that show again. I watched it a bit when it was on the air, but I was not very good at watching TV then
Mhm.
because week to week stuff, life just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I apparently missed most of seasons 3 and 4. I'm discovering. So, and I feel like I actually did watch a lot of X Files. But
I mean, I thought I watched a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer until I started rewatching it like 10 years ago, not 10 years ago, probably more like 4 years ago.
hmm
And then like as I watched, I realized, wow, I missed this episode, I missed this episode, and I missed this episode.
yeah, I mean those long running shows are it's easy not to miss a bunch of episodes.
So do you pick different shows for inspiration based off what you're running?
I like to do my research if I'm running a game, and so I will. I don't watch a ton of TV shows for research. I mean, I watch some, um, but I do a lot of movie watching. So
Okay.
so I've been recently I've been rewatching the Bourne series
Okay.
in case I actually do run the X Spies and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, for Apocalypse World, rewatched all of Mad Max, and I finally got to watch Book of Eli.
That was
Um,
a good movie.
it's a pretty movie. Yeah, it's a pretty good movie too. Yeah, it was a very pretty apocalypse.
That's that's true. There wasn't a whole lot of like there was like only the bad guys were nasty looking, and then only some of the bad guys.
Well, I mean, the landscape was really pretty, is what I mean.
Yeah, but I always kind of imagine the apocalypse looking kind of pretty because like if you look at even Mad Max, like yeah, in the moment it looks pretty horrendous, but the desert at night is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. I've been trying to read and watch a few other things. Um, currently, I'm reading The Knowledge.
The knowledge.
Yes, How to Rebuild Our World from Scratch. So I'm thinking it may be useful if Jarhead, Zach's character, goes and actually tries to rebuild the world.
Like from the old world?
Yes, to rebuild. This way I have some idea of like, all right, if he needs to build a blast furnace, what does he need?
Oh, okay.
I know that one already, but that's a non-hypothetical. He's going to need a blast furnace.
Fair enough.
Well, he's got to fix the device, so he's got to remelt the metal down and then recast it. So
Jarhead's got some work ahead of him.
yeah, it's mostly a matter of time and bricks.
Time and bricks.
Yeah.
See, obviously I watch a lot of anime already, but
Yes.
just a bit. Um, but when I'm preparing for a specific game, I will seek out different types of materials. So before the Mage game, I read Occult America, which is a history book, and I also started watching like some really cheesy, National Treasure
Yeah.
style
Well,
movies.
I mean, getting the basic cultural touchstones of those things you need that at least.
You need that at least, yeah. And then also I try to watch things that involve magic. So like I'm really looking forward to Constantine, and I'm really looking forward to some of the
Right.
other stuff that's coming out pretty soon along those lines. I reread Books of Magic by
Oh yeah, that's a good.
it was Neil Gaiman, right? Neil
Yeah.
Gaiman? Yeah.
Those first four books are just brilliant.
Yeah.
I haven't read the rest, but I haven't read much of the rest. But yeah,
Those first four, yeah. I looked at when I was getting ready for Demon, I watched a bunch of James Bond movies. I watched the Bourne movies. I watched a couple other like Mission Impossible movies. But then what I also did was I started reading. There's a book called The Devil in Me. It's
Okay.
about a blues musician who trades his soul for the ability to play guitar.
Oh, well, there's a demon pack for you.
Yeah, and it's got a really good depiction of the Demon Pact because like the main character loses time, he doesn't know where he went, and He's
Right.
like, and like he's not really sure what he traded, and it's pretty,
Hmm.
it's a pretty rough book to read, but it's really high quality. Um, and then I also watched a couple of other, like The Prophecy and
Yeah.
uh, was that really bad Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Sixth Day?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I watched that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think what other good things there would be for Demon. I know that they suggested was it crap. um the Terminator TV series.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Connor.
That has a lot of time travel in it, right?
The first episode at least. That's as far as I got, but
I think I watched more of it, but I don't remember.
hmm. It looked good, but then I realized I wasn't going to run Demon anytime soon. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was the other game I was planning on running. I bought a Tianchi Banshou Zero at
oh yeah, I've heard a
Gen
lot
Con.
hearing that pop up a bunch lately.
So I'm planning on running that, and that's going to be super anime based.
Well, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Because originally I was going to do a Besem thing, but I feel like this is a better choice because there's mechs and ninjas and samurai.
You can have mech. Not to say you shouldn't do what you're planning, but you can have mechs and ninjas and samurai in your Besom game too.
That's true. I feel like I like the setting a little better. It's like a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
Um, and it's
Yeah,
all kind of built in together, so I can just just draw on it and go from there.
yeah, yeah. No, a good setting can help. I mean, Besom sort of generic, really. It's just like whatever you want to do, it can do it.
Yeah. So the system's kind of cool. I like the way they do experience because if you grow too fast, you can essentially lose your character.
Oh,
So you have to kind of manage your own growth.
so is it sort of like Apocalypse World where you're sort of eventually forced to retire to safety?
Yes and no. There's ways of lowering. If I remember correctly, there's like ki and karma, and if your karma goes too high, you can lose your But I believe there's ways of lowering your karma also.
Oh, okay.
So it's both a kind of upward cap and a motivation to pursue different parts of the story.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a cool game that I picked up recently. Well, I kickstarted it, and I've got the beta called Urban Shadows. It's an Apocalypse World based game that basically does World of Darkness for Apocalypse World.
Nice.
And they have this really cool mechanic where you have corruption experience. So you
Okay.
can, yeah, so you can basically invoke a move to get corruption experience and get a bonus to your actions. Like your power will be more powerful or whatever, you know. And as you get corruption experience, you get corruption powers, which of course give you more corruption experience every time you use them.
Nice.
And eventually you get all your moves, and then you retire to becoming a threat. You become the next villain.
That is cool.
Yeah, I'm thinking I may adapt. I have a game in my head that I want to. I'm gonna have to build basically. Um, it's basically you play psychics, sort of like fire starter style or carry, where your character has these psychic powers, and the more you use them, the more you try to push your boundaries, the more powerful you get. But there's no going back.
Okay.
So eventually, you're gonna go off the deep end, and like I don't know, we'll explore what happens at the end of Akira.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it's one of the two sort of really game designy games in my head that I wanna do at some point.
Starting from scratch and building your own kind of system for it.
Well, yeah, more or less. I'll probably pick something that's close enough and then rip out most of the rules and put in what I need.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
I find that for me, it's less like I kind of ignore the rules half the time anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I find that I really like the setting of World of Darkness, and I think that's partially because it's a nostalgia thing for me,
Mm.
and partly because like that's always been kind of the genre I've stuck to. But I'm starting to dabble in other things, and I know you're sick of running fantasy because you ran it for years.
I ran it for a long time. I find it difficult. I mean, like every so often I'll have some sort of idea that's like, I want to do a city over a huge dungeon. And I did that. I ran it not too long ago, but it's like I can't keep it up for very long. It's just that genre is just there isn't anything new for me there, at least not yet.
Yeah, and we have not run it too much since like we had your one D&D game,
The big one.
the big one, and that ended in 2002, I think.
No, I think it was 2003. It
2003.
was the spring of 2003.
And we haven't had a consistent fantasy game since.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Because you had your Iron Heroes game.
Iron Heroes ran for about
It was fairly long.
6 to 9 months.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
That's reasonable.
But I think that's the longest. I want to say that's the only one I've heard. But I'm sure Alec has run something.
Alec ran like something for 3 or 4 sessions in about every genre possible. And then Jared ran one that was longer. It was like 3 or 4 months at a pop. But
Yeah, he ran one just before I left, and then I left, and then it died.
yeah. And now we're playing in a Numenera game, which is very pseudo fantasy. It's very interesting. It kind of feels like D&D.
And it struck me as very, say, John Carter or something like that thing.
Yeah,
Or Dying Earth. Dying Earth.
that's a good way of putting it. I mean, like, because we're playing essentially. I mean, glaives are fighter classes.
Right.
Nanos are mage magic casting classes, and jacks are rogue classes.
Hmm.
And it feels like right now it feels a lot like D&D with floating things.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
so we're finally kind of doing that. But one of the reasons why I like whatever, I can bring it, TBZ,
Right.
is because it's kind of like a fantasy that we've never done before.
Right. Yeah. The Asian fantasy is quite different, really.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of strangely similar to Numenera.
Hmm. I could see that.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it takes place in space on another world that is got some sort of relics of the ancient world and spaceships and, you know,
Yeah. Fun stuff.
yeah. So that's got to happen soon, I think. I think I should. I'm trying to decide what my main problem right now is trying to decide what I want to run next. Demon makes the most sense because that's the last thing I ran.
Right.
But at the same time, I just want to like cleanse my palate of that.
Uh,
And
see,
I'm worried if I do to the White Wolf game, it's going to take forever, and I'm just going to get really involved in it.
yeah. Yeah. I want to try a bunch of new systems, which is why each of the 3 games I want to run are things I've never run before.
Right.
But I also really want at some point to get back to World of Darkness because I don't know if I've mentioned this to you actually. I mentioned it to Grace a bunch that I have this epic storyline that I want to run, or actually I am running, uh, and I've done 2 parts of 5.
Okay.
um,
So I'm
I
guessing
want
it was Mage and Changeling.
no, it's
No.
neither of those.
Really?
Yes, no, it's the first bit is it was Promethean,
Okay.
and the second bit was my hunter game that I ran.
Oh, okay.
And so and so next bit would either be demon or maybe a different bit of hunter, um, probably one of those two. And basically, I want to do sort of this God Machine arc, just sort of threaded through all of my games, but it's most clearly in those two games that it really was in the forefront of it.
Yeah, I mean, in Promethean, I mean, it was a not quite a villain. It was kind
Yes,
of
not
like,
quite a villain. Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
I mean, like it wasn't people were the villain. It was
Oh
just
yeah, no, people
involved.
were the villains. I mean, it was if you want to put a name to a villain, it was Pentex. Pentex was the villain.
Pentex was the villain, and the God Machine was just part of that its process. Or
Yeah,
maybe Pentex was part of its process. You know, that's part of the fun of the God Machine.
right. Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
Pasha was really Portia,
yeah.
Portia,
Pecha. Yeah,
Pasha was really tied in with that.
yeah, yeah. In fact, I used her as a major NPC in the Hunter game because she was
Right.
hunting for a way to gain access to the God Machine. So she was manipulating this team of private investigators to like see if they could find this central mystery in Seattle that would give her the key that she needed.
I still don't know how I feel about the God Machine as being threaded through. Like for your games so far, I like the way you're doing it, but I don't know how I feel about objectively it being incorporated into other games
Well,
game lines, I
I
guess.
think I think it needs to be done with a certain amount of subtlety, depending on how well the themes of the game mesh with the themes of God Machine.
Okay.
Like with Hunter, mixing in the God Machine is probably not too problematic.
Right.
I mean, there's certain versions, like if you really want to go with like a Judeo-Christian angle, that you probably don't want to deal with it.
Right.
But if you're dealing with like Chiron Group and Null Mistress, those groups are going to go all over that.
Right.
Um, but other things like Vampire, I would be hesitant to bring it in. I did bring it in one shot using I think it's Holy Engineers, is what it is, from Danse Macabre.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I used them in a convention game, and we had a group of Order Dracul vampires sent to silence a former member of their order who had joined the Holy Engineers and who was breaking the masquerade, spouting nonsense on the internet.
Great.
Um, but that was also a vampire Promethean crossover game,
Okay.
so it was already working with sort of a mixed theme there.
Oh, that was the other story I forgot I was going to run. But yeah, it was the crossover games. They provide other opportunities like that. Like I really want to run a werewolf game. Like I've wanted to run a werewolf game for years,
Yes.
and by years I mean 10 plus years.
Yeah. Yeah. But you have
Um, but I have Rob, and he does not want to play a werewolf. So when Idegrim Chronicle comes out, I'm gonna try to make sure the Purified from Immortals are still on par with them,
okay.
and kind of use him as the Mulligan
Mm,
and one of the player characters. Not the Mulligan, the MacGuffin, and one of the player characters.
okay.
Um,
Cool. That
yeah,
way he doesn't have to play a werewolf, but you can have your werewolf game.
exactly. And the main thing being like working. There's since the very beginning of my first mage game, there
Mm.
was a very very powerful hate spirit
Oh
bound
yeah.
beneath the Bronx, which
Yeah.
I always had as being part of the reason why New York City burned during the 70s. And I want to do something with that still.
I've been playing around with doing something like that. I've been playing around. So in that one shot I just mentioned,
Yeah.
one of the characters is it was a Promethean made by a Chinese Taoist sorcerer,
Okay.
and she was basically created to defend Chinatown.
Nice.
But recently, she's discovered a threat to Chinatown that she can't handle. It's a powerful spirit,
Okay.
and so she's looking for someone to help deal with it. And so the person that she's trying to find right now is John Smith.
The Monster Hunter.
Yes, the epic monster hunter. And so she managed to find Pasha, and Pasha's like, "Oh yeah, I can help you find my throng mate, but you need to do this thing for me first. Go up to North Dakota and find out what's up with this guy spouting nonsense on the internet about the God Machine."
Oh.
And that's how the vampires and Prometheans meet, because they're all after the same guy.
The crazy guy.
Yes.
I like the idea of using former PCs as
Quest givers.
quest givers. Yeah, yeah. I did that a bit in my last mage game. I was going farther places with it, and maybe that's something I can also use to incorporate into Werewolf to make it a little bit more palatable for the players.
Yeah, I love doing that. I've used one of your characters that way. Yeah, your Dominic Terrazine showed up in a later game I ran as the emissary of the
Nice.
this. Yes, and so he was the quest giver. It's like, oh, there's this weird thing going on in town. I'm kind of busy, but you could go down to this dungeon, find out what's going on, and tell me what it is. And we'll figure it out.
Nice. And players like it too, you know. So like I like hearing that he's doing something now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always cool to like hear that your character's, oh yeah, he's off doing something cool and being awesome and moving and shaking in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, I also have to figure out, at some point I'm going to have to bring Mammon back, and that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Is he going to come back as a quest giver or just straight up villain?
That's the question now, isn't it?
Straight up bad guy.
I'll probably do something similar to what I did with one of my own characters, where I made him the Dark Master.
Oh yeah, the Dark Master.
Is he a quest giver, or, well, he never really gave you a quest, but
No.
is he a straight up villain?
Well, he was. It depends on who you ask in the group.
Exactly. So that's probably what I'll do to Mammon.
I mean, like, you know, my character was okay with him. He was just like, it's the Dark Master. How bad can it be?
Right. Other people were like, he's putting people in chains.
Yeah, but they were murderers. They had no justification to judge him. They should murder the people.
Yeah.
Not all 8 people. They just murder the people. So it's like, oh my God, he's committing slavery. It's like, you're murderers. Calm down.
Yeah.
These people are alive and they're fed and they have a place to go. You just straight up murder civilization.
Yeah. But then I like to give players choices.
Yeah.
My whole gaming philosophy boils down to show the players something interesting and see how they react.
Right. Right. And I mean, I think earlier when you were talking about improvisation
Yes.
and Apocalypse World, which is like part of the game, that's something that you do pretty heavily as it is.
Yeah, I do it, but I do it unconsciously.
Yeah. And sometimes I just don't even play in games beyond the first 3 scenes.
Yeah, I know. It's always interesting. It's like I always feel uneasy when I don't have the whole thing planned out, even if I don't actually ever use that.
I've learned to embrace the uneasiness and just let it roll. As long as I'm not tired, I should be okay. But when
Yeah,
I'm tired, bad things happen.
yeah. Talking of tired, I think we've talked for like an hour now.
Yeah. This is like one of our old long car rides home.
Yes, they were fun.
They were
I
fun.
missed them.
Hey, now we can do it on the internet.
Yes. Now we just have to think of a topic before we start rambling next time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it for tonight, everyone. We'll try to come up with a topic so we don't just ramble on and on and on.
We had a topic this time. We
We
just
did
didn't.
have a topic. It was like an introductory topic.
Yes.
How about
Oh,
this? How about this? For next time, we each pick a system that is not World of Darkness
okay.
and discuss it in a bit more detail.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. You have a good night.
You too.
Thanks.